So now up, we're going to head over to Marcus Foley, and he is going to be talking about the attention economy, the battle for attention, and how to bypass the issue. A fantastic maneuver from content to attention. So let's welcome onto the Social Day virtual stage, Marcus Foley.
Good afternoon, Social Day. So thank you for everyone who has logged on and or anyone who's downloading this afterwards to watch. So today I'm going to ask the question, do we deserve your attention? And I'm going to make the case why I think this should be fundamental to our content marketing strategies as we move forward now. After I've made that case, I'm going to go through 5 content strategies that we consider on behalf of our clients, and hopefully that will something for you to take away and have a think about. And just before I do that, I'll just quickly introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. So I've been in digital for 20 plus years, which in dog years means I'm either dead or very, very old, as my team like to remind me. But I've been at the forefront of digital for that period of time. And from the early rich media advertising and, seeing the ability to put a booking engine into a banner for the first time, what became user-generated content and blogs, and the heralding of the video marketing era, each new phase has fundamentally changed the way we think about the world and the role of digital that it plays. And that's why I believe attention now is the single most important thing to focus on, because there is that saying, why you should demand attention, because without it, nothing else matters. And because I'm not on stage now, I would have had some nice shiny shoes on and a new shirt probably, but I thought I'll share a little secret with you that I don't normally share very often, but I don't have to feel so embarrassed about that. I thought about when I started in my journey into my career, and I fell in love with a chicken. But it was a very, very special chicken. So before you think I'm a little bit odd, it could dance, it would sing, it would actually do anything you asked it to do, and it was really, in essence, a very subservient chicken. But it was obviously for those of you who know it or remember it, it was the subservient chicken stunt from Burger King. And it grabbed my attention. It blew my tiny little brain about the possibilities, because you could type any command in, the chicken would then do a dance and do something for you. And I didn't realize, if you swore at it, it would tell you off, it would do these things. And I didn't realize, obviously, it was all pre-recorded and pre-worked out, and they'd worked out 200 routines. If they didn't understand, they would obviously just go shrug his shoulders. But it was amazing what you could do, and it just really got me into what digital was. And I've always loved that thought around grabbing people's attention, great work. I marvel at what our creative industries can do. So it's really important, as part of being part of that creative industries, that we keep pushing ourselves. So that's why today I'm going to make the case for attention and take it from there. So let me kick off and make that case.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hopefully you can see those videos. Hopefully that's streaming well for everyone. Anyway, so do we deserve your attention? So if you start with, they just don't care about you, and then ask, do we deserve your attention? You're probably setting off on the right path with your content marketing. The answer to that question doesn't always make us feel comfortable if you're really truthful about it. That's why our model, we like to focus on earning your attention. No matter where you are across the content ecosystem, we focus on the most scarce resource of all, which is time, and how to get some of it. And that's why brands like Netflix that we work with, they know that the fight for a share of consumers' attention should now be central to the brand vigor. Strip back all the complex models, all the best practices, the rules of engagements, what the media tells us, and ask yourself that simple question. And just be brutally honest about that when it turns up in your feed. But why is that? Why is that important? Well, we know everyone talks about this epic battle for your eyes and ears, this sort of smash and grab raid in our attention that happens on a daily basis. And speaking of a daily basis, every day it's one constant, never-ending stream of content that comes in through our eyes and out of our brains at the speed of a touchscreen. Every day I read different numbers about how much content we see. Someone likened it to, we scroll the size of the Statue of Liberty, for example. So we take a lot of content in every day. And really, we have to be honest about the capacity for human attention, because attention doesn't scale. And there is only so much time in a day to be advertised to. And if you look around now and do the research and think about the neuroscience and the Googles of this world now talk about our attention being less of a span and more like a muscle that's being trained to divert itself every day by the sheer number of ads we see. So our brain and our attention is changing. And I think, the latest figures was, 2 seconds or 2.1 seconds where you've got to grab someone's attention. And why that's also important is because we're so much more in control of what we take in. So anything that really doesn't interest us, we will skip, scroll, or swipe past at the speed of a touchscreen. And the biggest challenge we've got, I think, and we've got to be, this is one thing we've got to be really honest about, is like, are we zoning people out? And you got to ask that question with some of the content. If you think about trying to keep, I know it's hard, right? Trying to keep up with the algorithms, trying to keep up with your competition, trying to, come up with creative ideas and ways of talking and communicating with our audiences every day. And it's not easy, but there's a lot of interesting things happening across the content. So when you start looking at brands across the content ecosystem, it starts to reveal some really interesting things. And this is probably where my obsessive nature about the way I think about content and look at it starts to come into play. And you've got to start asking yourself how you're competing for attention if it all looks the same. So here is Nikon, Canon, Sony. Here's 3 very, very different camera brands. But if you look at the content, and as lovely as that content is, it all looks the same. They are beautiful images, but in essence, I could swap those images out for any of the other feeds. And so you've got to ask yourself what you're doing here. And this predictability that's going on within this content streams is letting this sort of an unimaginative rule. And I think with the way the brain is working, we're probably not getting attention at all. And there's a number of categories that do this, that we seem to be mimicking each other. And you've got to ask yourselves, are we looking out to seek new perspectives, alternative viewpoints that ultimately lead to better outcomes and more memorable associations with our work? Here's Rolex, Hublot, and G-Shock, 3 very, very different brands. But if you're skimming through that content, you could swap that watch out for anyone else. And the watch category is one of those classics where you quite often see the ambassador with the gleaming white teeth and the arm cocked up, showing the watch. But, in essence, if it all looks the same, then what job are you doing? And is this viewable or is this memorable? And are you creating the right memorable associations? If you don't start looking for alternative viewpoints within your content, it won't lead to better outcomes for you. So one of our agencies, we work with the whiskey category, and it's I'm obsessed about this category because I just find it fascinating. Here is, if you can see this, hopefully, there's 6 different whiskey brands on here. And this is their content feeds, and it all looks the same, And I know the system demands rules around the way we build our brands, but you've got to ask, is it throttling the life out of the creativity in places? And this content, is it viewable or memorable? And what works, So the output is becoming quite repeatable and predictable. And with the way the brain is working and the way we think about attention, that is not great. And there seems to be this great comfort in that safe place, I think, sometimes with the content marketing strategy where we might just be ticking some boxes. But what we know and what was true is content succeeds with variety intelligence and inventiveness and provocation and all those things. And if you're not bringing that into your work, then I wonder what job that is doing. And you've got to challenge yourselves on that. I think as marketeers, we all have to daily. So here's one of the first rules of the day. You can set yourself. If you can swap it, drop it. If it's not identifiably you and anyone else, then drop it. Again, let's go back into the whiskey and the drinks category. Again, I've just bleeped out the bottle here, but in essence, it's one of those sort of millennial moments of us gathered around the table with the food and everything and the bottle in the middle. I could actually swap that bottle out for a number of different brands and it would all look the same. And it's kind of interesting when you think about that. You've got to ask, is something identifiably you? So when the whiskey is really interesting, when the whiskey category, in places when they do a Highlands moment, you've got to ask, is that your Highlands moment? There's two different Highlands moments from two different brands, but you wouldn't know which is which. When North Face do a top of the mountain moment, it's a North Face top of the mountain moment, the way they think about their content. And that's what you've got to think about. What job is that doing by just putting the content up? And we've got to ask ourselves, does this work? This repetitiveness is killing that. We're marketing to a generation of content experts. And I'm just going to pull up this thing so I can see the actual copy on there. So let's just consider this for a minute. Now, Johnnie Walker, I'm not just pulling out Johnnie Walker here, but here we are. We've got this classic sort of drink scene, which is millennials with lovely white teeth, the bottle in the middle, food on the table, and they do like food on the table in the whiskey brands. And then we've got a copy line here. So it says, when enjoying Johnnie Walker with your friends, make sure to agree the designated driver so you can all get home safely. Let's like this post to join the pack, to never drink and drive, drink responsibly, keep walking. Great. Look, I love what that stands for, but again, it's quite a long copy. Quite a lot of what happens here is about it's taking a stock image or an image that you could swap for anyone else and a copy line, and just posting those up every day. And I think that repetitiveness is killing the ability for your content to command your attention. And if you're marketing to a generation of content experts, which they are, does this work? Do they not smell this out really quite rapidly? I think the answer to that is probably yes. So, we've got to challenge ourselves. Is this our job done? Let's have a think about this again for the moment. Pick something off the social calendar, Chinese New Year, tick. Spread some food over the table again, tick. Bottle in the middle, tick. Job done, copy line. No, I think we've got to move on from this. And I think when we're looking at the content strategies in places, you see this kind of happening quite a lot. So, we are in a new era, this what we call, the human-centric marketing, the digital economy, for those of you who study the marketing models, and Philip Kotler, for example. And you've got to think about how we are talking to people. We definitely need to move on from what was product-centric to human-centric. So product-centric would be, our sneakers are great. Human-centric is, don't ask if your dreams are crazy, ask if they're crazy enough, just do it. We're going to move on from forcing our product messages to inspiring people and models that pull people in and invite the audience to participate some way, even if that's the way you start engaging their mind or visually how you engage them. Because that content and the way you treat it then seeps into everything that they do. So again, the whiskey brands, bottle on, nice piece of advertising, we might think that works and we're told it's the viewability and the reach, but is it memorable? Will I remember that, or could I swap that bottle out for anyone else, So we had one of the things we did is looking at reframing the whiskey conversation. How do you reframe that conversation for your next generation of customer using pretty much all those same assets? And this is an example of one of the campaigns we worked on with Grant's Whiskey. Now they have, they're the first to admit they don't have the sexiest assets in the world, and it's probably a great example of a traditional whiskey brand trying to break the mold in the category, even if you've got to use all those same equities that we're talking about. So hopefully this, guys, will play for you. Sorry, I'm just not sure if that's playing. Let me go back one. Okay, great. So in essence, what we've just seen there is a whiskey brand taking all those same assets, but deploying those tactics designed to earn your attention and putting a bit more craft in there. You know, they're being inventful and playful and disruptive and bringing to life those exact same assets and moments of togetherness, but probably doing something that's going to be a little bit more striking as an advert when it turns up in your feed, whether that is paid or organic. So let's have a look. I'm going to just run you through now 5 sort of strategies that we think of on behalf of our clients that are really, really important to us, and we obsess about them every day. So first of all, distinct brand worlds. And I really talk about this. This is not just about the look and feel, but your active energy, your pace, your movement, about what you project, how you talk. That thing that becomes instantly identifiable as you. I think it's really important. You know, when we create a universe for a film, say like something like Blade Runner, you know, you can definitely recognize that content comes from the dark dystopian universe of Blade Runner. You'll recognize it instantaneously by the way that content is treated. When we work with, you know, something like Häagen-Dazs, we'll make sure it's distinctly not Magnum. You know, we don't want to sell the category. We don't want to sell Magnum. We want to sell Häagen-Dazs. And we've got to make sure that this is memorable content and it has an association with Häagen-Dazs. You know, if you think about this, when they launched the stick bar, you know, that it looks like a Magnum. And as much as the product team will talk about the shape and the size and those little nuances that they obsess about for months and months and months before they launch the product to market, it all looks the same to the untrained eye. So, you know, you've got to make sure we're not selling the category, we're actually selling our product, and that's really important. And not to state the obvious too much. Whenever we create these universes, you know, they're just important. Obviously, you invest in them. You think about the creativity. This is Boys TV. I'll put this one up because it's coming out another season 2 next week, I think it is, for those who haven't seen it. But again, you know, this is not just an AV edit, because, you know, in the TV on demand competition, you know, there's so many different players. You have to make your content really distinct to you, and that's really important. So impact followed by narrative. That's that single-minded obsession that we have with your moment of impact. You know, because, you know, what we know from all the data is you've got to grab people's attention. And there's a number of tactics that we always deploy for doing that. You know, it could be hijacking a scroll. It's delivering a moment of unexpectedness in some way. You know, here's where something like the recognition comes first as we try and interpret these cues and what's going on, and the surprise comes later. I pulled this up. I love some of the Nike content that goes out there. So think about this. Think about the context of this when you're sitting down, you're scrolling when you could be running. What do Nike know is the hardest part of a run? Putting your shoes on, probably, because once you've got your shoes on, you actually get out on the road, you're probably okay. But everything you're doing up to that point is probably scrolling away, looking at, you know, content you don't need to be looking at, and doing everything but getting yourself out for that run. So the context of that is brilliant, and the surprise that comes in the mind makes that really memorable, because you become part of the content, and that's really important. The way you play with, you know, high performing formats. So we always think about these things. We always talk about this, like, understand the formats and how you can bend the rules of them in some way. You know, here's, you know, clickbait's not probably a negative word, but clickbait carousels. So, you know, play with the formats to increase the memorability of your advertising. Look, what this is doing here is trying to draw you in, because you're kind of like, what's going on over here? Seduce people in to explore the content. And we'll often do that with these formats to try and have that moment of disruption that kind of makes you want to go in and explore some more, because, hey, inherently we don't want to miss out on something if we're intrigued in some way, you know. And we repeatedly turn to moments of breakthrough advertising that hijacks the feed in some way. So it's a strategy that's proved worth the risk when it comes to generating more impressions. So often we'll do something like, it looks like a double post here, but obviously it's doing something different. And hopefully that's playing quite nicely for you. You can see that well. So it's really, you know, really important, like investing in that content at the moment of disruption. And we know that, you know, from the ROI we get on this, it really does perform very, very well. And then first frame strategy. So, you know, those moments of impact, but also how you might think about how you talk about your brand. This one I'd love to talk a bit more about. This is Elsa Bay. It's a whiskey brand that we work with that uses blockchain in the distillery process. And they're after STEM creators as the new audience they want to talk to. And we talk about the Wired community. Well, the Wired community have a thirst for content and thirst for learning. So when we want to start a conversation with people in their mind and invite them to participate, that becomes part of the way you think about setting up the strategies to frame a conversation. So instead of here going, we use blockchain in the distillery process, that's a very product-centric message. We ask, is code the future of flavour? And we're engaging people in the mind to be intrigued and probably have a think about that themselves. Those first frame strategies can literally be all the things from hacking the UI, playing around with stuff. So something that might look familiar, I'm just going to play that one again, that you recognise, and then it looks like someone's ringing you or your phone's going. It's playing around with something and subverting something familiar that exploits this brain's wish to find a pattern in something because you recognise it, but it's not quite as it should be. Those things become very, very memorable in your mind. And here's the 75-25 rule. This is something my creative partner talks a lot about. It's like making people make a connection to your work. So if you give them 75%, and they've got to bring 25% to it, this is the beginning of these conversations in the mind. You get them to complete the picture. So in essence, this is the way you have to do it. They have to figure something out. So when you look at it and you see the content, the surprise comes in your mind as you disrupt someone mid-scroll and you complete the picture. So in essence, it's like a conundrum or a joke or something that you become part of. That piece of content, when you go, if you have to get it, then you've started a conversation in the mind, and the neuroscience behind that becomes more memorable. And it's nice to think about that, like how you might exploit the brain's wish to find a pattern in something. I remember when I first saw this, and I'm not sure if it shows up really well on your screens, but this is a Marmite post that launched around the Marmite launch. And the first thing I did is I sort of scrolled in and looked at it, on my phone, and it revealed the Marmite pot. But it's lovely. It's great. It seduced me in. It made me engage straight away. And I just, always a firm believer that content that you invest in will make an audience invest their time in the content too. And this is really nice. So anything like this where it reveals something, the closer you look at it, it's really, really important, And here's Nike again, making people make a connection. You have to stop and figure it out. You're all caught up now. Go and have that bloody run. So as your mind is forced to spend a bit longer process something that's seen, your message becomes more memorable. And Nike, they do that in a lot of their advertising. They catch you at the right moment. They make a connection. This is a big out-of-home spot just outside Sydney. And every day during rush hour, there is massive traffic jams. And yet most of these people live in the suburbs, about 20-minute run away. So they're saying run home or drive home. Well, actually, it makes you start thinking about that and making a connection to that, And don't be scared. I believe this about rewarding people's attention. There's a lovely saying about, if you're going to blow your own trumpet, at least play a catchy tune. Or, why shouldn't every bit of content be a gift in its own right? Be it a conversational piece of content, something you've invested in. So if the user has given you their time, you give them something back. That's a little bit more interesting than a stock photo and, another long copy post. I think we've got to move on from that. And then where we can, we gamify our advertising, introduce moments of gamification and place the user into an active role. But here's something you have to press and hold to reveal the content. But as soon as you let go, it stops. So it was a playing around with the Facebook Live and I think we've actually stopped you from doing this. But that click, hold, engagement is really interesting. It makes people engage with the content. They're always curious about what's behind there, And, you're tapping into that people's desire to control things. They love to control the viewing experience. Instagram stories is testament to that. So tap into that instinct for people to play and increase the memorability, that's really important. And me moments, just finally on this, this is really important, I think, about giving people something of value. It's quite interesting when you go through, in entertainment, we're always giving people things, whether it's a meme generator, become part of a video, it's often, shareable moments of content where you can upload your photo, write some words, it creates a beautifully crafted piece, you can post it up on social in 20 seconds and that's it. It's quite interesting how there's quite a lack of that in times across the brand world. It's quite interesting, So we often do that, and it does surprise me how little you get of that because the rewards can be very, very high, especially all the work we're doing with all the filters and AR and things like that. And there's obviously a bigger thing, and I could talk about Pretty Little Thing is one of my favourite brands, I must admit, on a number of levels. I love the way they body diversity, the way they celebrate every body, and they truly do this. But they often deliver these me moments in there, which is great, and we are inherently lazy on social, but they'll post something up about your one friend who, and you'll look at all the comments in there, the hundreds of ats of their friends making content that becomes shareable, and it's great, and I love to see that. So that is a fly through, but what are those rules I have just discussed? So here's what we consider when we're trying to earn attention, and this is definitely there's a room for a lot more on this, but be memorable. Think about, are you viewable or are you memorable, and be memorable with your advertising. Impact followed by narrative. So, be really true. That moment of impact, that single-minded obsession about your piece of content. Does it grab you? Even in the copy, that 1-2 punch of how your copy is working. If it's a long diatribe, are you grabbing someone's attention? The 75-25 rule, and here's an exercise for you to go through today. Either go through your own content feeds or go through some of your favorite brands and look at that rule, the 75-25 rule. How much of that content you look at makes you go, you bring something to it, whether it's a conundrum, a joke, or something, whatever that thing is, how much that does, Offer interaction wherever you can, and, be shareable. Give people things because they will share your content. And I can't talk enough about being distinctly you, because when you look across these categories, invest in that content and make your distinct brand world, those digital brand worlds, distinctly you. I think that's really important. So, right, that was a quick 20 minutes. So just to summarize all that, about making our adverts, more memorable, invest in your content, be inventive, playful, intelligent, whether we're brands or agencies, whatever we are, be you and no one else, And in that epic battle for our eyes, as we start developing our content strategies for 2021 and go about vying for people's time, we must ask ourselves that simple question. Click, click, off you go. Gone back. Do we deserve your attention? And be honest to the answer to that question. If the answer is no, then stop, step back, and start again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marcus. That was so fantastic. If you could see some of the comments we've got coming in, like, we need Marcus in our agency for the day. Day with us, like, oh my gosh, my mind is blown, this was just amazing. Please go and have a look, because I think it'll make you smile anyway. And I was like thinking, wow, incredible, everybody's rethinking the way they create content right now. So your job here is done, I imagine.
Thank you so much.
Sorry?
I said, thank you so much. That's very kind. I mean, it's just an important thing. I'm so obsessed with attention. Our agency's built around that because, as my creative director wrote something we were writing yesterday, demand attention, because without it, little else matters. Yeah. It's true.
Totally. And some of the examples you were giving were just incredible, the things that you were highlighting. And actually, we do have a question, which I'm quite interested to know as well, from Ravi. And Ravi's, because we almost run out of time for questions. So, guys, keep asking your questions, and Marcus will answer them afterwards in the app, or tweet him, or however he prefers to be contacted. But Ravi's saying LinkedIn. And Ravi's asking, what's your favourite social campaign of 2020 so far?
Well, do you know what it is? I mean, there's so many, and that's a great question, because you could dissect different ones from, social campaigns from the way Burger King and McDonald's and the wars. One of my things I'm obsessed about is Pretty Little Thing. I think they are amazing because they live, eat and breathe everything that they do. The way they write their copy, the way they invest in the content, but more importantly, go and look at their social feed. There's a reason why they are growing their audience at a massive pace. So I can answer that question and talk about that for about an hour, Ravi. It's a great question, and catch me offline and I'll debate with you a bit further if you want.
Do you know what? I think we're going to have Ian. I think we're going to have. Sorry, Ian. What am I talking about? Day 3. I'm losing my marbles. I think we're going to have Marcus for a Q&A with everybody, maybe later on for like a half an hour or something, so that we can really, find out his favourite content and that kind of thing over 2020. But for now, we don't have any more time. So Marcus, where can everybody go and find you, connect with you, talk to you if they want to after this?
So the best place is catch me on LinkedIn. I think I'm This Is Marcus on LinkedIn, but my name's Marcus Foley. If you Google me, you'll find me. I'm not the disgraced Irish horse jockey who cheated. So I'm the other one, just so you know.
Oh, that's a shame. I'm just joking. Okay, well, Marcus, thank you so much. That was an excellent session. Here's a huge round of applause for you. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you for joining us on the Social Day stage. Okay.